Lead the way, I'll follow.
Sounds good, man. Dylan, wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into your life as a spiritual coach, I want to know this. 5 years ago, and I keep starting all of my interviews with this, and it won't go away because it was such a big deal. But living through the pandemic 5 years ago, it was changing and it just rearranging everything. How did you get through that era, and how has it
Yeah,
changed the way that you do things now?
yeah. That the pandemic from a health standpoint, no issues at all. My family and I, we practiced holistic health. We understand health, we understand wellness, and so we never really ran into any health challenges, thank goodness. From a business standpoint, it completely decimated my business. I had my career for about 17 years was in real estate, and I owned a lot of multifamily real estate and big apartments, 200, 300 unit apartment buildings. And when the pandemic hit, uh, it, it really affected the type of properties that I had owned. I owned a lot of middle class type of income properties, and the properties were big and they were on government loans. And so the government loans, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, decided, hey, you can't evict tenants for like several years. And so the tenants caught wind of that and stopped paying. So many of my assets, I would have maybe 20, 30% of people paying on a big 300 unit apartment building, and you can't sustain that for very long. So my real estate business completely, everything that I knew up until that point had completely imploded, lost my business, went into bankruptcy, you name it. But I am so grateful that that happened, Joe, because I never liked that business.
Yeah.
I did real estate because I wanted a very specific income, and that was my way of earning that income. But the stress, the anxiety, the health challenges that it would naturally create within me because of the stress, it just was not worth any dollar amount. And it pushed me into the work that I do now through the Caden Academy. And I had to really do, I've been a student of inner work and inner transformation my entire life, since I was 16, from what I can remember. But this was a time where I had to pull out all the stops and all the cards, and I learned a few things on how to get through those years, those dark night years. And so a lot of the work that I do with the Caden Academy today, and we call it the School of Conscious Creation and Inner Transformation, are skills and tools and things that I had solidified within myself during those years to get me through that time, through those challenges, through those difficulties. And now we share that in those tools and those techniques and reprogramming the mind and the mental framework to help people move away from fear and scarcity and depression and anxiety and life is happening to me and I'm a victim of life and I'm a victim of my circumstances into moving and realizing who you really are. We call it remembering who you are, and that you have the power to shape your outer world and your reality. And when you understand that and you remember that, then life as we know it transforms because our outer world, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is just a mirror back to what our innermost beliefs are. And so if we always believe in our mind and our imagination, our subconscious mind, that life is going to be difficult, I'm not lucky, these things always happen to me, then life will mirror that back to you. And it took me many decades to finally solidify that. And a huge black swan event in my life to get through for about 5 years to really understand and click and realize what so many spiritual leaders, what so many religious leaders have all said, that the power of God is within us and that we are the creators. And I began to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together that were missing for me along my spiritual journey and solidify them and transform my world and rebuild my world from the inside out and realize that I am the conscious creator. I am the creator of everything that's happened to me. And that's easier said than done
Right.
until you live it.
Yeah, no, I get it. And
Yeah.
I've been in that situation where there's been career forces that have happened that I should have made the choice before it happened. And it
Yeah.
sounds like in this scenario, things happened. Has it made you just much more intentional? Have you looked back and thought, man, I should have just ended that career and gone in a different way? Are you okay with the way it happened and how it all went down?
Yeah, I mean, you really, it's interesting because a couple of years prior to that happening, I had launched my first course because I do a lot of online courses and coaching, and in that time it was real estate driven. And that was 2018, and that was the first time in my life where I felt purpose. I felt fulfilled
Yeah.
because I actually traveled the country. I went to 24 major US cities. I gave away hundreds of copies of my course. I hosted free meetups and seminars, all just to give back and teach people at the time how to use real estate to build, wealth and residual income. And I gave it all away. It was the first time in my life where I felt good about what I was doing. And so there was this inner feeling for about 2 years prior to COVID, and this inner push to move away from being the real estate owner into helping people through coaching, through teaching, through speaking. And then I decided to ignore that inner feeling and double down and buy about $100 million worth more real estate just before COVID broke down. And, I learned a lot of lessons from doing that. So back to your original question, it was like the signs were there. I've been wanting to move away. I probably should have moved away. But I am very grateful for the fact that I didn't in hindsight because I wouldn't be doing the work with the impact that I have with the work that I'm doing today had I not had that big, dramatic, cataclysmic breakdown for 4 or 5 years of my life. I wouldn't have had what I teach today. I would have, but it would have been solidified,
Yeah, I get
you
it.
know? And I had to sit with it and I had to work through it and I had to say this is what works and this is what doesn't work. I spent years, people often hear me talk about in my course, years praying to God at the time. Prayers never answered. Pray, and I said, wait a minute, let me go back to my spiritual roots and figure out what's the missing component here. So I had to work through all of that for 3, 4, 5 years. And had I not had those events, as hard and difficult as they were, I wouldn't be. And that's the case with everything, isn't it? Every time that we've had these major breakdowns in our life, we look at them as so bad, right? And they're so difficult to get through in the time. And when you're in those moments, you don't want to hear anything from anybody.
Yeah.
You're in pure survival mode.
Yep.
And it forced me to sit and work through that. And despite everything, all the chaos in my outer world, to find peace. Despite Chapter 7 bankruptcies, despite losing hundreds of millions of dollars, but not hundreds of millions, but it was $100 million plus portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Despite losing everything, to be able to sit in that storm and find peace in the eye of the storm. And so I would have never been able to do that without
Yeah.
those events.
It's interesting. Maybe it's just an older guy thought, but I think the more I get older about what's really the most important things of being alive on this planet. And I saw a quote the other day from Jim Carrey that said, everybody in the world should be rich and famous at some point to see how pointless it is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, because
Yeah.
once you get to that point, you just think that when people have all this money and notoriety, that everything's fine, no problems, everything's good. But at the end of the day, the more
Yeah.
I travel and the more people I talk to, at the end of the day, the one thing we can never escape is our humanness.
Yeah.
Every All of us are in the same boat. All of us are doing the same things. We have the same processes as humans, somewhat.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting when these life forces come in, it's about how you react to it.
Yeah, and our natural instinct is survival. Our biology takes over,
Yeah.
and our survival mechanisms take over, and they say, danger, danger, I need to survive.
Yeah.
And the goal is realizing that despite no matter what's happening to most of us on planet Earth today, there are people that are genuinely in a real survival situation. So I don't want to take away from that. But
Sure.
for the vast majority of us every day, losing money, losing assets, losing your business, losing your career, you're still going to survive. You're still going to be alive. But our body doesn't know that, right? Our biology doesn't know that. So in the work that I do, there's always this biological response and mechanism that, for the most part, we don't have a lot of control over. A lot of times, I'm just going to say that generally, we do, but a lot of us don't.
Yeah.
And then as we get into what we call awakening and remembering, and we get into spiritual work, these two collide. And it's being able to tell that biology, I'm okay. I'm not in a survival situation. This person who hurt me, who stole from me, who cheated on me, who did whatever to me is not trying to kill me. But your body doesn't know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
These people that are trying to take all these things away from you are not trying to kill you. It's just stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that we do is helping people move away from the survival based biological reactions into a lot of times emotional intelligence, emotional wisdom, emotional being able to control these emotions and sit with them and allow that older, that more wise self to take over and realize, hey, we're not in a survival situation. This is not dangerous. Not all dogs bite. And then to go even deeper than that and remember that, as hard as those times were for me in those 4 or 5 years of my life, uh, being able to admit and understand that they were a mirror back to me. So whatever I was doing during that time, the things I was saying, the mindset that I had embodied had quite literally reflected those circumstances back to me.
Yeah.
And being able to understand that and say, aha, I'm not going to do that again. Now, like the old saying, I'm going to watch, they say often, if you knew how powerful your words and your thoughts were, you'd watch every word and thought out of your mouth. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so all of my words, all of my thoughts, all of my ego at the time reflected back to me what I had experienced. And then so now it's like, okay, now I understand every word, every thought. Life is a mirror. If you smile into the mirror, you're going to get a smile back. If you frown into the mirror, you're going to get a frown back. Is the easiest way I can explain it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me ask you this. It's very clear what you're doing now and where you came from. But when you were a kid, let's say
Yeah.
11, 12 years old, what was your dream gig? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to be, but I knew that I wanted to make $1 million a year.
Okay.
And so I started actually at the age of 12 fixing flipping cars because I grew up in an environment where my mom had to work two jobs to support us. My dad and her were divorced and gone. And I had a brother, but he was 4 years older. I was an only child. And I kind of grew up in this lone wolf mindset. If I wanted a car at 16, I had to figure out how to get one,
Yeah.
right? If I wanted to eat, I had to figure out how to make money. And so I had a neighbor that would work on cars. He'd buy them at the auction, work on them, and sell them, make $1,000. So I said, hey, that's a wonderful idea. So I started fixing flipping cars at 12, basically with my neighbor.
Yeah.
And then I knew that when 16 came, I needed to save enough money to buy a car, but I also need to know how to work on the car because it's probably going to be a piece of junk.
Yeah.
So I developed those skills, and then I kept saying to myself, I always had this goal in my mind to make $1 million a year. And I said, well, I can't get there selling cars at $1,000 a pop.
Yeah.
What else can I do? And that's when I stumbled across, at the time, the shows like Fix and Flip were popular, and all those kind of reality TV shows around fix and flipping were just kind of hitting TV. And I said, there's what I want to do. I want to fix and flip houses. And so I started with fix and flipping houses. I bought my first house when I was 17. And then that was, you know, I just went for 17 years. Because at the time growing up, it was like you learn one thing, you get really good at it, you be the best in the world at it, and you got to do that for the rest of your life. Well, today's world's a lot different, right? And so I never thought in my life that I would be not doing real estate. And then I just graduated from single family homes to big apartment buildings and so on and so on. So it wasn't really like this is what I wanted to do. It was purely driven by the fact that I wanted to make $1 million a year, and real estate was the only mechanism I could find in which I could do that. A doctor and an attorney, you have an income cap. All these people have income caps. Yeah, they make good money, but there's no income cap on real estate,
Yeah,
right? And in fact, it's even double better because you get all the tax benefits of owning real estate
yeah,
as well. And so that was it. But that led to a life of I hated what I did because I was just chasing money. I couldn't stand it.
yeah. So I'm curious, for someone that wanted to make the money, when you got your first big paycheck, what was that one thing you went out and splurged and bought? Do you remember? Was there a moment?
There wasn't. I was
Yeah.
always a very frugal person just because of
Okay.
how I grew up.
Yeah.
If I saw a penny on the ground, I picked it up. Like I
Yeah.
was a guy brushing your teeth in the dark. I
Yeah.
was eating ramen noodles. And so I never spent all the money that I made. I did two things. I reinvested back into my business or I paid everything off. So I didn't want to have debt. I was a product of Dave Ramsey. I studied Dave Ramsey, really embraced having a debt-free lifestyle. And so my vehicles, I wanted paid off. My house, I wanted paid off. I want to pay everything, excuse me, in cash. And then everything after that would go back into buying apartment buildings, right?
Yeah.
So I just kept leveling up, $30 million apartment buildings, 10 million in equity. You need a lot of money. It
Yeah.
wasn't all my money, but a good portion, a quarter of it was. We would syndicate and raise money from investors and things like that. But we always had to put in, my company always had to put in 25%. And so I would use everything that I earned to first take care of my family. My wife didn't have to work, you know, have everything owned free and clear. And then everything that was left that didn't pay for the office and the family and having a debt free life went to buy more real estate.
Gotcha.
So I had
So
all my cards into real estate for the most part.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
who's been that inspiration for you in your life to not only succeed, but to find your path now? Has there been a heroic force in your life?
That is a great question. Probably my family.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I look at my wife, I look at my son, and that's why I do what I do. And I'm a big hunter and I'm a big fisher. And so nowadays, it's not even about the money, it's like providing. When I come home with a deer, I'm doing my job, I'm providing for my family. Meat, right? Substance. And so for me, it's my wife and son.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that's been successful, maybe not so much monetarily, but overall that's done it right, and you could sit down and have a meal and talk to them, is there anyone that you would like to sit down and break bread with?
That's alive?
Yeah. Or it could be a ghost. It could be one or the other.
Well, a lot of my inspiration. Oh, I always said if you want to have a fun party, put like Jim Carrey in the room and some
Yeah.
other guys, right?
Uh-huh.
Like those types of guys, just
Yeah.
to have fun. Maybe throw Elon Musk in there,
Yeah.
but not necessarily. No, I would probably look more to my past. I think meeting people a big inspiration of mine is like Alan Watt and
Yeah.
Ram Dass and Neville Goddard. And so being able to sit down with them for an afternoon and just discuss life and philosophy and all of these things. That would probably be something that I would want to do.
So, what is the energy for you every day to wake up to do the work that you need to do? When you're trying to help people get to a better place, you
Yeah.
have to get involved with their worlds and it can be dark, it can be muddled. But what keeps you consistently focused on doing a good job, taking care of yourself, your family? What is that energy for you?
Yeah, I just have a genuine interest. They always say and I'm going to say figuratively speaking here, when you've been to hell and back and you've looked the demons in the eyes and you're able to now break bread with the demons and not be scared with them anymore, you've learned a few things. And I spent so much of my life in autopilot and driven by ego and fear and scarcity and material things. And all it created was more fear and scarcity and ego and very uncomfortable way of living life, like in terms of peace and quality of life, right? And so I've been there, I've done that, I've been through it, and I can see other people immersed in it and the suffering that it causes. And for me, I'm almost like, I just want to be, if I can just say one thing or give somebody one tool or technique to help ease that suffering. Because I don't believe we need to be on, we're not on this earth to suffer, right? We're on this
Right.
earth to be creative. We're on this earth to play. We've decided as a culture worldwide to participate in a system that induces high levels of suffering for a lot of people. But that's because we've forgotten who we are. We've gotten so consumed. You know, Alan Watts used to have a lecture where he would describe life as a play. And even referring back to Jim Carrey, he went through a period in his life where he literally didn't know who was Jim Carrey. You get
Yeah.
so consumed in the act as the doctor, as the attorney, as the real estate investor, and you get so consumed with this human experience and this biological experience, you forget who you are. You forget that you are God, you are creation, and that we're here to play and that we're here to create, and we get involved and consumed with these struggles. And so my passion is helping people wake up from that, to move from what we call unconscious living or unconscious creation into being the conscious creators of your life and remembering who you are, the power within you, remembering that we're not here to suffer, we're not here to struggle throughout this existence, and to take back that control, to take back feeling like you're a victim and life is happening to you and you have no control over it. And so that's what drives me.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you had a book in your
Hmm.
hands, and it was a coffee table book, and you handed it to that young version and said, "This is how your life turned out," would that young version believe it?
Yeah, for me, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you give any advice?
Well, um, my advice to my 18-year-old self would be, you know, as you go through life, especially at 18 to 30 and 40, you accumulate wisdom. And I don't know if you can necessarily accelerate that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You just things got to happen to you.
Yeah.
You just got to have, you know, some beat up a little bit because that's how you develop wisdom. But you know, I would probably plant the seed and I would hand them a book or I'd hand them my work and say, "Hey, this is a seed that when life gets tough or you run into a wall, maybe just go back to some of these principles and remember that it's all a play. It's all an act. And to not take it so seriously,
Yeah.
right? To not take it so seriously. I think inevitably as human beings, like we all get to where we're at because of the experiences we have. We have a bad experience and we say, that sucked. I need to do something different. Like you can't accelerate that process.
No.
You have to have, you know, it's like the old yin and yang symbol in the Asian cultures.
Yeah.
Like you can't have breakdown without breakthrough.
Yep.
You can't have night without day. And so you have to have these, but to realize that these what we consider bad experiences, these painful experiences, and we get so consumed by them, you can't have creation without destruction. You can't have one without the other. And it's these experiences that put us on these paths in life. They help us pivot. They help us stop and realize, oh, something's wrong here. It's like if you had a pain in your body, something's hurting in your arm, right? Something's wrong. I better stop and look into this
Yeah.
and either do something different or pivot.
Yeah.
But we get so consumed by like, oh, I just want to go through life without having bad experiences. It's not going to happen. It's impossible
Yeah.
because, you know, there's night and day. There's good and bad. There's there's always contrast. If you
Right.
didn't have contrast, what would life be?
Yeah. Totally.
Right? It would just be like you would get so completely bored, you'd jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
And so to recontextualize and relook at how you look at these experiences, and I used to have a coach that would teach me get excited with breakdown because with breakdown, there's always breakthrough,
Yeah.
right? And so embrace breakdown, embrace the challenges because you know right around the corner from that is breakthrough, change. It's going to cause you to pivot. It's going to cause you to think differently. So I know we digressed a little bit from your original
Oh, you're
question there,
good.
but I would allow my younger self to just unfold, but to not take life so seriously,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, totally get it. So let me ask you this, of everything that you've done in your life and evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
I would say um, I'm the proudest of probably taking care of my family, really.
Yeah.
You know, my family means a lot to me. And yeah, putting a smile on their face and watching them live
Yeah.
makes me proud.
So let's dig in a little further here. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that gets your book, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
You know, that's a good question. I don't think I'm anybody. I'm in this persona as Dylan, right? I'm in this act as Dylan. And I've had a lot of struggle, I've had a lot of hardship, and I've learned a lot of lessons. And I lead by example, and that's all you can do. And so, if people say, "Hey, how did you get through this with such ease and such peace?" I don't mind sharing, but I also understand that I'm not going to go around the world and like convert people into these teachings, right? It's like I did a lot of work in holistic health. Like if somebody doesn't want to heal, anything you say to them is going to be irrelevant. They have to want to heal. They have to want to do something different. And so for me, I just go through life being me. I sweep my own front porch. And if people come and say, "Hey, that's interesting. How do you move through life with so much peace, with so much stuff that has happened?" or whatever the case might be, I don't mind sharing, but I just be me. I
Yeah.
just do me.
I dig
And
it. I totally get it.
I don't go through life trying to be anything in particular. I go through life with extreme curiosity. I treat life as a play. I like to be creative. I like to travel. I like to explore. And if I can help people in some sense along that path, fantastic. If I can't, that's okay too.
So, speaking of creativity, if anyone wants to pick up Imagination Creates Reality, reach
Yeah.
out, be a part of the academy, have any questions, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The best place is to go right to my website, cadenacademy.com.
Okay.
And we just launched a 12-week inner transformation program. So for 3 months, we're going to help people transform from the inside out in many different ways. And the first 3 weeks of that program are free. There's no strings attached, no credit card, no nothing. And so I always encourage people to start there because part of that program is the work that I've done on the power of your imagination to shape your outer world. The book you had just referenced, Imagination Creates Reality, is actually in week 6 of that program. We get really deep into it. So I always tell people now, just go to cadenacademy.com, jump into that course, and begin to remember who you are and begin to be the conscious creators of your outer world. And that program will certainly help you do that.
I love it. I will put links in the show notes. Dylan, so great to meet you, sir. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your time and story. Best of luck. Have a great holiday season, man.
You too. Thank you, Joe, for having me.
You bet. Thank you.